Hello, my name is Robert Gast. I'm the head of the Technasium department in our school and also the chairman of the regional network of Technasium schools. Originally, I was a chemistry teacher. Over here, I also want to introduce Maria, my colleague.
I'm Maria Luken. My profession is I teach Dutch to the students of the Technasium, and I help them to prepare their presentations which they have for their end products of the Technasium.
Well, imagine an educational concept that's not lacking behind, but is actually on the cutting edge of technology and the social developments that are in society. Now, I was abroad for a while, and when I came back in the Netherlands, I was amazed that I still had the same books as when I started out, but not only when I started out teaching chemistry, but also the same as I had in high school myself. So altered a bit, of course, but it was basically the same stuff in the same manner, even with the same examples, and nothing really changed. Now, education always seems to lag behind. It takes decades for technologies to enter the books and also the colleges of teachers. Where is the interaction with society of our educational system? And I believe that Technasium has an answer to that. And it's much more than that even. I was looking to what can we possibly teach Hong Kong, which is doing so well in the educational field. But maybe we can share some of our experiences with the cracks in our educational system as we see it in the Netherlands. Now, I would like to start up the PowerPoint here. At Technasium, we say changing tomorrow today. We try really to connect to the future. And what we experience in our educational system in Holland is that the student motivation was low, and they also see no relevance often in what they have to learn and how to develop compared to what is demanded in society. If we look at this job opening, it used to have certain skills in the cognitive area, but nowadays there are a lot different demands for jobs. So we have here in this job opening a requirement for imagination and to take initiative, be flexible, be innovative. So these are all skills and competencies that are not taught in our schools usually. And Technasium is really looking into these things. Now, many schools, of course, are more into the 21st century skills. So also collaboration and leadership, problem solving. Technasium takes this in our schools to a whole next level. So what Technasium really is about is that you have this special subjects for 6 hours a week that students work in a group of 4, and they work for a company, for some real question that comes from society. So it's not from a book, but it's someone actually comes to the school and lays down as a client a certain question, a certain demand for a solution, or for maybe some research or design that is needed, and students get to work right with that. Now, let me explain a little bit about the Dutch school system. This is not your typical classroom. This is a Technasium classroom where they work on real life cases. But if a student enters at the age of 12 into our school system from primary school, then they immediately get divided into 3 different levels. We have the basic level, then the intermediate, HAVO, and the top level, the VWO. That HAVO and VWO both can lead to university level education. VWO usually always leads to university level education. So in these different levels, many schools have different streams. And these streams can be like multilingual, but also sports. Greek and Latin is very popular, arts, of course. And now we have research and design. Now, research and design is not only a stream, it's also really an exam subject. That makes it a bit different from, for example, sports and arts. Greek and Latin is also an exam subject, which entitles to a special diploma, just like research and design. So Greek and Latin and research and design are a bit different from the other streams that are popular. What is actually this research and design? It's new. It is pretty revolutionary in our educational system, and I do believe in all modesty that it is worldwide, something that is interesting to look into. So I really would like to share you some of the basic principles. Research and design is, as I said, 6 hours a week, so it has a pretty big impact on the lives of students, and they look into real life problems. It cannot be something that is made up, so the client that comes into the school really has to be waiting for an answer, has a demand for a design, should really have this problem. So it cannot be something that is made up. That's a requirement. I want to show you a short video for an overview of Technasium.
Technasium is the formula for secondary STEM education in the Netherlands. Technasium students work in a team on real science and technical projects. The students follow the unique course Research and Design from their first year to the final exams that will qualify them for higher education. Students start with relatively simple projects. During their Technasium training, they develop the skills to design solutions for increasingly more complex technological issues. Technasium pupils graduate with an extensive thesis in which they conduct research into and make a design for a current practical case at higher professional or university level. Because Technasium students get acquainted with different professions and issues in science at an early stage, they can deliberately opt for a science-related follow-up educational program. The Technasium formula stimulates pupils to develop important skills like cooperation, entrepreneurship, creativity, communication, self-management, and project-based work.
So Technasium really should have this challenge into it. And it's not only about the technical challenge, the design challenge, the research challenge, but there's also always a challenge in the competencies of the student. So how to develop in leadership, it's always a group of 4. So leadership is very important, but also collaboration, planning ahead, reflection, all these competencies are essential, crucial for success. And this makes it way different from all our other subjects. So it's really looking into a person, and it's not an internship. It's like a research team or a design team that's working from a distance for a client. So all the work basically is done in school. So they're going to the company, of course, to visit it, to look around, to ask questions, but it's not where the work is done. So it's only a short visit, and they come back. And of course, there are go, no-go moments that they interact with the client again. But basically, everything is done as a small company, actually, working from a distance. In the first 3 years of the subject and of Technasium, actually the teacher looks for a company to work with. Could be a hospital, could be an institution, could be a small company, a local company, or large companies like Shell or Unilever, and these type of change. What happens is that many different groups from sometimes multiple classes engage in the same assignment from a client. Now, this client, of course, receives as an inspiration sometimes 10 or 20 different solutions or designs from the different groups that are working for this client. This is very inspirational for the client themselves. So one thing is they have to explain their own situation, their problems, their challenges to the students, which is refreshing for them often. And then they get inspired by multiple solutions from multiple groups throughout the different classes. Now, this is there still is a large part of teacher interference in how the assignment is arranged, the contacts with the client, but more and more as they grow, you get a situation that they start to acquire their own clients and adjust their own assignments. So they really achieve the personal goals by perseverance through the competency skills that they want to attain. So every group in year 4, 5, and 6 has their own client, their own company, their own assignment, but also their own competence that they work on. So they have their own profile. Some want to have more skills in planning, some more skills in leadership, skills in presentations, communication, and so on, so on. There are different fields that they actually work on. What usually an approach is for a design assignment is that you look really into the problem. There is this discussion with the client to narrow down the problem to something that they can actually solve or design. Then you have this whole brainstorm session, go, no, go moments. There are different techniques and critical thinking skills, ways that you can achieve out-of-the-box solutions. And then they work out the best concepts. They build a prototype or they get involved into research, sometimes lab research. It cannot be only desktop research. There has to be something in the physical world that really changes. So there should be some testing, something that happens in real life. It cannot be only a computer assignment. And then they test it, evaluate it, of course, adjust it. You have this design cycle that, or the research cycle that they go through, and finally they present to the client. And sometimes, and that's of course the holy grail of Technasium, sometimes the client really brings to life what he or she is inspired to. So sometimes the things are really built or processes are adapted because of what the students came up with. And the type of projects, they have a wide range of possibilities in that. You have human, the field of human health, also energy, water, nutrition and nature, logistics, the environment, and the production, also industrial design. There's this whole world of the information technology, computers, high-tech science, also nanotechnology. So all these different fields can be used to acquire a client or to work in a certain area. Now, what is strange is, of course, that the teacher has no knowledge often of what's happening in this special group with a certain assignment. So it might be a very complicated Python script that they're working on in the computer area, and the teacher himself has no knowledge of that. The teacher might have no knowledge of a certain area of nanotechnology or of some medicational application. So the teacher is not the one who's having the right answers. The teacher becomes a coach, and they can only check with the client to see if the solution, if the process that the students are going through is what the client is expecting, and if the level is achieved. And also there are experts from outside the school that can help the students. But basically there's a lot of self-learning with the students, a little bit like the example that many people know, the hole in the wall. So students really educate themselves, but there are experts outside of the school that help with that. But the teacher only is a coach, and this is a great challenge because many teachers, of course, know their subject. They know the skills that the students have to pass their exam for like physics or mathematics, chemistry, etc. And all this becomes a bit irrelevant if the subject is completely new. It's maybe cutting edge technology. It might have 3D printing, CAD designs, which the teacher just cannot know as yet because it's new. Now, the teacher really has to become this coach, and that is the main switch, the mind switch in the teacher. This is not for everybody, apparently, but for many teachers, it's a great step ahead in both their own professionality as in their interaction with the students. It's a different way of approaching, but it has great results because, and that's the second challenge that we have to overcome, there's a lot of attention for the competencies, but that also requires that you have to look into what are the competencies that can be developed and what can be developed within this student. Every person is a different person, of course, so it cannot be the same for the whole class. So there's this very detailed way of looking into the development of a certain student. Of course, they do it themselves. Again, the teacher is a coach in this, but it has a high level of knowledge in itself in the competencies that are available. Now also, sorry, there is less time, of course, because this is 6 hours a week, sometimes even more. If they get really enthusiastic, they put in sometimes a lot of time more to program the robots, to go out for lab research or field researches. So there's less time for certain subjects. Now, what we diminish in our school, in many schools that do Technasium, there are about 100 schools right now, that's craft and arts, because in Technasium already a lot of crafts and arts are implemented in the prototyping, in also the creative process that's going on behind it. And we have a bit less physics because that's also covered. And we have this special subject that many schools have a variation on this. It's called Big Picture. So a big picture of history, evolution, how humanity came to be, like this general knowledge type of subject. So that's also given less time. So there are different subjects in school that are diminished in time-wise, or sometimes in a certain year not given at all, to make room for this 6 hours in a week for research design. Now, another challenge to overcome is the collaboration with the companies and organizations, because it takes time, of course, to bring all this goodwill to the school. Companies have to be willing to participate. They have to invest time. Sometimes they also invest money into the school. But we find that a lot of companies find it refreshing. They find it fulfilling also to contribute to the schools. And also they have this certain demand themselves, of course, for well-educated workers later on, so they see it as an investment in their own future. But of course, it takes time to explain everything. It's more and more embedded into the Dutch society now. As I said, there are about 100 schools right now doing this. So it gets more known and more goodwill to participate into education is growing. But these are really some challenges that have to be reckoned with. It takes quite an investment in time and in teaching skilled teachers to do this type of work. So what we see is that the ownership of the development of the students goes from the teacher more towards the student. The student, he pursues his own personal goals instead of what the teacher lies down for them. There's a lot more of teamwork, so the student is also dependent on what the team is like, how to function in this team, considering your own personal goals. That requires leadership, of course. There's less direct control from the teacher, and there's more leadership in students. And that makes the teacher more of a coach than like the more classic type of teacher we're used to. Now, to establish this, there's a big network of schools that help one another. There are more than 100 Technasia working now, a lot of them for the past 10 to 15 years. Recently, schools are added still, and more schools will be added. So the older schools, so to speak, are helping the younger schools to get this skill and knowledge in this area, to have this new approach in education. There are 18 networks throughout Holland, and these networks also collaborate together as one, of course, but there's a tight connection within the different networks. Now, the networks themselves are embedded in the schools, which also have other networks, of course, for example, Greek, Latin, or sports, the other streams. So there are many more networks than only these networks, but these are for Technasia very crucial. You cannot have the intervision that is needed, the critical friends that are needed to keep up the quality of the coaching skills that are necessary. Well, we do believe that Technasium is a way of the future, there where all students have smartphones now, and who you are becomes more important than pure the knowledge that you have, which still is important, of course. But we really believe that both in student motivation, but also in their competencies and the development of the students, Technasium is really connecting the future. So we hope to inspire you also with what is happening in the Netherlands. So thank you very much. And Maria can share some of her experiences with Technasium students.
Yeah, because yesterday evening we had an evening with the students that they present their end presentation for the parents and the teachers for the exam year. So it's what they did here, what they did this year, and they get a grade for it. They practiced it last Tuesday in the Dutch lessons, and I criticized them and said what could be better and what was good already. And yesterday they had a nice presentation for the parents and the teachers. And what was really nice yesterday, they organized the whole evening themselves. A few students were on the main stage in the auditorium for all the parents and all the teachers. And one student said, the slogan of the school is discover what you can achieve. And he says the slogan is not right. It should be discover what we can achieve together, because we work together in a team and we make something together. And that was really nice to hear from them. So that's what I wanted to tell.
Thank you very much. We're looking forward to question and answer session at the 31st. Have a nice day.